What is it you want, Barry? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Come with me if you want to live.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
The Force will be with you, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 20th Century Geek. I'm your regular host, Scott Weatherly, and you're joining us for part 2 of our spotlight on Moon Knight. Now, in the last episode, I did a bit of a deep dive, a full history of all the comics and all the runs that sort of like there's been for Moon Knight. Now, even though that was up to an hour of me talking about Mooney, it really only scratched the surface. It was always like, go find these runs, that sort of thing. So I thought the only thing I could do to really get under the sort of skin of this character is I need to pull in an expert. I need to pull in someone who talks about Moon Knight on a regular basis. So who better than my friend Ray from the Into the Night Moon Knight podcast. How you doing, Ray? You alright?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Scott, for inviting me back to 20th Century Geek. It's always fun to be on.
No, it's good to have you. And I'll say before we talked about the Predator, so now we're actually getting into talk about something that's very close to your heart. So let's from the off, let's throw out a plug for Into the Night.
Yeah, sure. As Scott mentioned, I host and co-host a show called Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast, the only Moon Knight podcast online so far. You can catch us on Twitter. Our handle is @ITKMoonKnight. And just check out Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast on Facebook as well. We've got a great group, facebook.com/groups/ITK Moon Knight. It's really fun to kind of meet big and little and new and old Moon Knight fans. And I was very happy to hear, Scott, that you're a huge Moon Knight fan yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was great to find your podcast because, like you say, it's one of those that you do think you think you're stood in a corner on your own of a comic universe, only really to find that there's a bunch of other people that have really got an appreciation for this character.
Absolutely. I classify you as one of them, Scott. I would refer to you as an Omega level loony. And there are actually, and as you say, surprisingly, there are a handful, or maybe even a few more Moon Knight fans who do kind of fall under that category as well. And to classify that, I define that with you having a vast collection of Moon Knight, not only in comics but also whether it be commissioned artwork, action figures, merchandise, everything. So it's very interesting to see people's fandom and what they have. And yeah, it's just a fun ride, especially with the TV show coming up.
Oh no, yeah. Well, I think Moon Knight seems sort of to be. I don't know what it is, but Moon Knight has really started to sort of rise up the ranks. And I think every now and then he jumps up. There's there's moments when something happens. Like I think the start of the Houston run, people took notice. He crossed over a little bit into Civil War.
Yes.
And then it sort of went very, very quiet, and there was bits and pieces and appearances and stuff. And then, to be fair, I love Vengeance of the Moon Knight as a series. It's only 10 issues, but it's such a good run.
I was just reading that, just pure coincidence as well. Yeah.
It's such a good run, but no one talks about it. No, it just sort of went under the radar.
And if we are touching upon that series, Scott, I want to give a huge shout out to a couple of my favourite issues. It's
go for it.
Yeah, issues 9 and 10 of Vengeance of the Moon Knight. One of my absolute favourite artists is Juan Jose Rip, and he does issues 9 and 10 of it. And for those who do have the issues, it's kind of a short, quick-fire arc. It has Moon Knight up against, of all people, Sandman with Spider-Man in that first issue. Fantastic artwork. I just love it. It's really hard to describe. It's kind of ultra detailed, I guess, Scott.
It's weird. It's got it's highly detailed, but it's got like a cartoony
Yes.
caricature slant to it as well. But yeah, no, I love that whole run's got something experimental about it as well. Like because the art in that first 6 issues was really good as well, really sort of strong. So
oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that flew under the radar, and it's
yes.
But like you say, it's one of those ones I actually visit quite a few times of because it's not been collected. Well, it has been collected, but really, weirdly, that the trade paperbacks go
It's
for
very
more
hard to
than
find.
Yeah,
Yes.
they go for more than the single issues, which is bizarre. But
So do you have the floppies or do you have the trade paperbacks?
no, I've got the single issues. Yeah, so I've got the
Okay.
10 issues. And recently, I actually downloaded the digital as well. So there was a Moon Knight sale on Comixology, so I was like, "Oh, that's the one to
Yeah.
get."
Always,
so I picked that up.
always handy to have. Oh, look, I'm a big proponent of the hard copy form. You know, the single issues or the trades as well. But it is always quite handy to have your iPad or your smart tablet just filled up with digital comics because you can just chuck a load on there, and it's very, very easy to carry around.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the first times I came onto Into the Night and we talked about it was for Desert Island Comics. You know, sort of Isle of Ra sort of comics, and
Yes.
I brought the Warren Ellis series issue 4, the Dream issue.
Dream. Yeah.
And you know, I've got it in floppy and I've got it in trade, but Declan Shelby's art and Geordie Belair's colours just pop on a digital screen, and you can zoom in on details and you can do bits, and it's it's the way to experience some of those comics, I think.
Yeah, do you with on screen? Do you do guided view or do you just read it more conventionally, like a page?
I do the guided view, but you know that you can have it where it just guided view and then shows you the page at the end, so you get sort of Because I think also with a lot of them, like if you get guided view is great, especially for novice, like you say. You know, people sort of like say, "Oh, I want to read comics. What's the best way?" But I don't know how to follow panels. It's like, well, guided view is perfect. But you do miss that sometimes. Like artists have put some really good work into like the panel layouts and to tell the story.
Absolutely. And the good thing, look, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, Moon Knight does seem to pop up every now and again. To me, he does. He just doesn't seem to go away. I mean, he is, for all intents and purposes, a lesser-known character. We loonies have been screaming for something on screen for a while, finally kind of getting something in, I believe, 2022, possibly. So that's still a while away. But yeah, he's one of those characters that I guess the greater comic fan base are kind of curious about. He always tends to pop up, and you find in every one of his volumes. Like I think one of the best things about Moon Knight is that each of the volumes, I think they've got about 9 volumes now, or 10, with different creative teams. Each of them are very different, and I think that's a great thing. You know, for some of the purists, it might be a bit harder to digest because, my Moon Knight is the, for instance, the Doug Mensch run, or my Moon Knight is the Charlie Houston run. But, of course, you can say that. But really, if you look at it holistically, each and every volume is so different. Whenever we get something new, like the recent Max Bemis run, which had a very divisive kind of acceptance or reaction from comic book fans, when you get that sort of reaction, you kind of have to take a step back and go, oh, hang on, actually he's doing something different. That's no different from what everyone else was doing, in the previous volumes.
I totally agree. Yeah. And doing the episode I did last week, the sort of real getting into the weeds sort of some of the runs.
Yes.
I do agree that every run has got something to offer, and that even goes for the Fist of Khonshu, which I think is sort of the bottom, and then the worst of Mark Spector Moon Knight. There's always something to take from it, and when people do take, like I said, chances and try something new. I mean, if we look at the sort of the two that seem to stand out and people seem to, like you say, we hear a lot about is, I think the second half of the Bemis run and Max.
Yes.
So the second half of the Max Bemis run and the Michael Brian Bendis run. Now I have to admit, like, I can sort of see that I think the Bemis run went off the rails a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
But
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
there's still some really good stuff in there. Like when you find out about the trauma
absolutely.
he suffered as a child, like that issue of him as
Yes.
just as a kid.
Yes.
And what's his name? The sort of the rabbi.
Uncle
the immo-
Ernst.
That's it, yeah, Uncle Ernst.
Yeah.
Who you find out is like an immortal and all this other stuff. Like there's some really interesting stuff in there. Like the concepts
Yes.
are great.
Absolutely. I mean, that alone, you know, that origin is what Bemis has done. He's actually filled a gap, you know, in that part of Moon Knight's history and canon. And it does have it does kind of fit in there as well, because not much is known around that time. And so him exposing the fact that his father, Elias, actually had some form of mental illness as well, and also the trauma that he received with the incidents with Uncle Ernst, that kind of really is the full explanation of his multiple identities or dissociative identity disorder. And it's very interesting because it's never really been tackled head on.
No, and I think that's what there was so many things about that. I mean, you get. And do you know what, for listeners that are listening, we are going straight in. I just we've deep diving pretty quick, so you may want to sort of, you know, if you're going to keep up, you may want to have Wiki open somewhere. But you know, in the Jeff Lemire run, which to me is up there as one of the best runs.
Sorry, Scott. Sorry. By the way, can I just say your part one was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
To be able to, I had a really good listen to it, and to be able to summarise everything quite succinctly, but to actually capture each of those, you know, volumes was really good. So yeah, I remember what you were saying about the Lemire run. So sorry.
No, I appreciate that. I have to admit, it took some editing because I mean, the original version I think was would have been a bit longer, and I was like, this is going on. This is just me ranting and rambling about some of my favourite things. So, but I honestly think that Jeff Lemire run, the 14-issue run, is not just good Moon Knight. It's a great comic. Like, it's one of those comics where the creative team utilised the comic medium for what it's so good at. You know, like the use of different artists, and not just different artists, like amazing artists. Like Greg Smallwood is awesome, and then to have him transition to, like, you know, Francisco Francavilla and I can't remember
James Stocco,
yeah, and so
brilliant.
It's so well done. It's just fantastic comics, but it does leave that gap because in that run, you go back and you understand that as a child he introduced or he created the Stephen Grant persona. For whatever purpose, and you sort of get this illusion that there's something wrong with his you know, with his dad and that sort of thing, but you're never sure, like, well, what trauma or what caused that you know, was it a mental break or was it just something that's in the family? And then so Bemis sort of filled that gap and said, oh no, there was something, or at least say, well, possibly this is what could have filled it. Like, you know, this could be one of many things. Because the Bemis also alludes to his dad, his father, who's a rabbi. Having those sort of mental breaks, doesn't he? Where he sort of just disappears into, you know, looking into the distance, sort of thing.
Yes, yeah. And actually, you've reminded me, if we are to, you know, hover around that period where Bemis did fill in the gaps, and going back to Mark's youth as well, what Lemire, I think, has done quite interesting, again, to the history of Moon Knight, is he's introduced Khonshu, like, in Mark's childhood, which... Previously in the Mensch run, obviously he stumbles across Khonshu in the temple after being left for dead by Bushmen. We actually see, and this is interesting. I'd like to get your take on this as well, of the visage of Khonshu appearing in front of Mark. Now, look, Mark has not had, I'd imagine, at that early age, any run-ins or anything to do with Egyptian mythology. So. Yeah, I mean, how would you explain this, Scott?
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I'll have to check the issues again now. Because does he introduce himself as Khonshu? Because he says like I'm an interdimensional being, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, that was it. The interdimensional being. That's my kind of thought of it.
It's this thing of like, because it's been. because it comes down to the question of like, is let's call him Khonshu for sake of being, but is Khonshu real?
Yes.
You know, is he an ancient Egyptian god? Is he an interdimensional being from the other void, or is he actually just an aspect or a figment of Mark's mental health issues? Like, it's never fully it's never been fully divulged, has it? But then Khonshu's not always really been there. I mean, you know, Khonshu as an entity really is a really modern thing.
Yes, made popular with the Warren Ellis run, definitely with that bird skull, the boned armor kind of look.
Yeah, but even before that, like the Houston run introduced.
He's got
the Bushman. You know.
Yes.
The skinned face Bushman, which is awesome, but
yeah. Well, he does go back all the way to early Volume 1, Moon Knight. I think about issue, I'm just pulling numbers out here, maybe issue 3 or 4. It's where Mark is turning to the statue of Khonshu, and there starts to be some sort of real dependence on Khonshu at that early stage, and that's when I think Marlene and Samuels and all that are kind of going, Mark's a bit, you know, and he gets really fixated on that statue that I think Midnight Man
he steals.
So, you know, the embodiment of Khonshu is kind of there. And to me, that's the first sign, apart obviously of the resurrection, you know, in Volume 1, but that's the first sign that Mark is having some sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, symbiotic relationship with Khonshu.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think one of the things I mentioned in the last issue, in the last episode, in issue 15 of that first run, there's almost like an essay written by Doug Munch about how he sees, the character of Mark Spector and Moon Knight, and he goes through all the personalities, you know, and he sort of lays them out, and the way he seems to see it, at least at that point, it's never really clear when he wrote this essay, but is that he's running away from Mark Spector. So he's almost, you know, he's running away from the sort of the sins of his past. And so he's built these other characters, Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley, and even Moon Knight, to sort of like as a redemptive figure, you know, to sort of to redeem him for his acts of the past. But then, like you say, sort of this thing of Khonshu coming in, it's like you say, it's they are disguises at that point. But at the end of the essay, he actually said, and I'll put him through the ringer and all sorts of stuff, and basically everything, you know, but you know, he's still sane. And even then, you're thinking, but I've read your previous issues, and it's clear that even in those first couple of issues, as you say, like there's a couple of hints where Marlene's like, even Marlene's saying to him like, I'm struggling with this. Like, you come in as Jake, you leave as Stephen, or you come in as Stephen and you leave as Jake, and he's like deep in character because, like, you know, his dialogue changes and his, you know, not just his clothes and the way he calls her like babe or doll when he's Jake Lockley.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's it.
And you're thinking, man, this is method. Like, you know, not even Daniel Day-Lewis would probably be struggling with this kind of. So, that level of sort of sanity and mental health issues is clearly about from the off.
Yes. So you mean? Sorry, what do you mean?
So I mean, I think like that. Thought you say about the dependency. It's almost like
yes.
Yeah, Khonshu is there, but like I say, you know, is he? I still sometimes struggle to see if he is a real entity, as a sort of as a god or intuition, because it's sort of like it's something he's created almost as a like you say, as a dependent, almost as an excuse, you know, to justify what he's doing. And I love the way that's been bandied around since.
Yeah. A couple of things that again that you've raised, I think, is really quite interesting. Number one, this guilt that you said that Mensch has stated that Mark has for the sins of the past. It's raised in the Bemis run, the latest run, which is really cool. There's that conversation on the boat ride to the Isle of Ra. I think he's talking to the Truth on that boat, and he mentions about how guilty he feels about all the blood he shed. But I think also with that aspect of his character, it's not explored enough. as the prime motivator of why he is Moon Knight. I mean, Moon Knight has a lot of different aspects to him. He's got the multiple personalities or the identities. He has this link with Egyptian mythology and Khonshu. He has this now he has this Mr. Knight kind of street detective noir kind of look. He's got the supernatural. There's so many different aspects to him, and I feel it's been lost along the way, but I think it's a very integral part of his character, the fact that he is running away from Mark Spector. Mark Spector he has formed these other identities. He actually becomes Moon Knight because of what he's done in the past and what he wants to change. And I don't think we see that well enough in a lot of the run. With your other point about this ambiguity with Khonshu, and I think that's part of the beauty of Moon Knight and his relationship with Khonshu. Unfortunately, though, you've read the Moon Knight Annual, haven't you? The latest one, Scott. Yeah, and I can't remember where else but it seems to me the way that Khonshu's portrayed now seems to be like it's a given that he's an established god in that annual, at least, which is a little bit deflating to me because it takes away the mystique of this whole thing with Khonshu. I love the take that Lemire had about this interdimensional being. To me, it reminds me similar to the way that Stan Lee handled Thor. Right? So Thor in our world and in our history is the god of thunder, but in finger quotes. Realistically, though, he's actually an alien from Asgard. He came down to Earth thousands of years ago. The Vikings worshipped him as a god, and he became a god in our eyes. But and I like that that parallel with Khonshu. Khonshu could potentially be seen as the same thing. He probably came down to Egypt, worshipped by the ancient Egyptians, but he's an interdimensional. What is he? Because he mentions in the Lemire run that it's not only him, that the other gods as well, they come looking for vessels.
That was it. I mean, he basically explains that the pantheon of Egyptian gods are all these interdimensional beings, and as you said, they all basically, that's what you can sort of like surmise from it is. Yes. They came down to Earth in ancient Egyptian times, and they took on vessels and avatars and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
And people worship them as gods, and that's where you get Ra and Khonshu and Anubis and all these others. And I love that idea. I thought that was great, and I really thought that was going to stick. And as you say, now, they have sort of smoothed a little bit more towards him being like an established god. I mean, to throw it in there, but what did you think of the latest annual? Because the other thing that seemed to come up that I've and ahed about and was sort of alluded to in the Bemis room, but almost as a joke, is Moon Knight avatars throughout history.
Oh, the legacy character, this whole thing, At first, when it was shown in the Bemis run, I think it was issue 190, perhaps. I was a bit off-put by it, because we have the likes of Black Panther, we have Iron Fist, we've got Ghost Rider. They all seem to be legacy, characters. And Mark Spector is so unique because he has these multiple identities, and he was chosen by Khonshu. Now, the fact that now they're saying Mark is just one of the whole lineage of Moon Knights, it kind of, I think, lessens the spectacularness of him being Moon Knight. But at the same token, and one of the loonies did raise this as well, out of all the ages, why did Khonshu wait until 1975 to choose this guy to be the Avatar? You know what I mean? So surely during the thousands of years, he would have been picking, someone to be an Avatar of Vengeance. It's a title, isn't it? Like the Spirit of Vengeance. So it kind of makes sense.
I suppose it is. And I like the idea, though, if they are going to explore this in the comics, and when we get onto our rampant speculation in a little bit, I think it's something they will do. I like the idea. Is like, so if you go back, especially to like the Wild West one, or there was an idea of there was one that was like a gladiator and stuff like that. Okay, are those people back? Were they sort of like broken warriors? Are they? Is Moon Knight, this idea of vengeance? Is it always a redemptive story? Were these like bad guys that were given a second chance? Like I like that idea that that's what Khonshu seeks out. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely. That is because I mean, Khonshu, the way he's been portrayed, always kind of looks like a shady character, right? So he'd be going for shady people, and Mark, for all intents and purposes, was quite shady, being a mercenary.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be pretty interesting to actually see, other stories similar to the Immortal Iron Fist, where we got stories of the past Iron Fists in that Fraction run. To actually to have decent, well-told stories of some of the older Moon Knights, that would be fun.
Yeah, and I think you could. There's, if they are going to go down that route, then it's a really interesting. He's almost like the anti-Iron Fist. Because Iron Fist is about having that, a purity of spirit and becoming the sort of the pinnacle of your art. And Moon Knight is basically about being like basically broken enough that you can take on these things. So I do like the idea of it, because the other thing as well is to say about Khonshu and this link with both history and fantasy is he's going to be included in a Conan the Barbarian mini-series soon.
The Serpent War. Yeah. Very interesting. I would love to hear your thoughts about this as well. If you look at the synopsis or whatever, the blurb for it, it does kind of make sense. So someone actually asked me as well, this Serpent War, would it include the Serpent Crown? And because the Serpent Crown is actually part of Set, the god of chaos, which is also an Egyptian god, basically kind of like the dark side, and he was the main antagonist to Amun-Ra, which was the sun god, and in real Egyptian mythology, Khonshu fell under the umbrella of the Sun King as well.
Yeah.
So Set was a direct opponent or rival to Khonshu. So yeah, I mean, would we see the Serpent Crown featured in the Serpent War?
I don't know. There's this that you can get. It is one of those things, isn't it? There's so many aspects of like the Marvel universe, and now you've got, like you say, the Hyperion Age as well that you can sort of tap into. There is so much there. It was one of those things where I saw the art and I thought, oh, okay, well they've announced, the TV show. I saw I don't know if it was which came first, but I remember seeing it and thinking, okay, there's a lot coming up. Jason Aaron said he's going to be enjoying it, including him in an Avengers run and this other stuff. And I was like, so are they going to raise his profile? And when I saw he was involved with Conan, I was like, oh, they're going to shoehorn it in. And then as you say,
that's true.
And when I read the synopsis, I was like, actually, I quite like this. This sounds like it could be really interesting.
They are.
Go on.
Yes, sorry.
No, my only concern is, of late, and we're going to get to Damnation. Moon Knight's use in certain team books hasn't been great.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping it's a good writer, and they take him, they read some of the history and don't just make him the Deadpool of the group as they did with Damnation.
Oh God, no! I hope not. Have they released the creative team for that? Was it? I could be wrong. Was it Jim Zub? I could be wrong.
Possibly. I remember Jim Zub being on it. So.
Because I would be actually quite happy. I mean, I think Jim Zub's a very solid writer. Having said that, Donny Cates is as well, but look what happened in Damnation. So it depends on how much vested interest they have in the character. I think, look, one of the things as well is Marvel are putting a heap load of confidence in Conan. They're really pushing him. I'm actually wondering whether he's getting a film or something, because they've released numerous titles and spin-off titles from Conan. He's been featured in the Avengers. He's now got this mini-series with Moon Knight. He seems to be really in the Marvel spotlight at the moment. And as you say, yeah, this age that Marvel can tap into is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I guess like you, I'm just hoping that he's treated well, because that Damnation run with Moon Knight was massively, I felt, disappointing as a whole.
Yeah, it really was.
everything everything non-Moon Knight, like the Doctor Strange issues and the Iron Fist issues, I felt were pretty good. That one Ghost Rider issue was very good. The core books, though, for me were terrible. But yeah.
It was interesting. It was an interesting concept, and it was clear, like,
Yeah.
it's quite interesting. It's been setting up the some
Yes.
major conflict for Ghost Rider and some other bits and pieces. So that I'm actually quite looking forward to. The Ghost Rider series that's coming up later this year looks good.
Yes.
But yeah, Moon Knight did not come out of it looking solid.
Not at all. If you put him side by side with Mr. Knight from the Warren Ellis run, those are two very different characters, But yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the Mr. Knight from the Warren Ellis run would probably just beat him up, to be perfectly honest.
I think so. Just find anything like a Bregan Street sign and just pummel him with it. I don't know. Yeah.
But I do think they are pushing these characters, and they seem to be sort of it's serving this thing of, like, what are they going to do with him? And it's funny because some people I know again have asked me pretty much since the last episode came out, sort of like, what are your thoughts on what they're going to do with the TV show and what's coming next, and the things they've mentioned, and where should I start reading, which is something we'll get into soon. But
yes.
One of the weird things that sort of, like, when you go to look at some of the characters that have been built up in the MCU and even in the DC universe recently, they've got such a wealth of background. Everything from, like, Cap, Iron Man, Thor. You've got, like, decades worth of material.
Yes.
And sort of, like, periods where sort of, those are characters have sort of become established. Like, Cap is Cap. Like, he's sort of, whoever writes him, there's a very sort of strong ethic that runs through it. And the same with the others. But with Moon Knight, with Moon Knight, you could literally write sort of a light-hearted, kind of thing. You could do like a superhero romp kind of sort of thing if you wanted. Or you could do, like, the darkest sort of kind of superhero film you wanted to do. Like, you could go full horror if you wanted.
Yes. That was one of my first fantasies, was if ever we were going to get a Moon Knight movie or a TV show, I reckon to set it like as a horror film, I think that would have been just brilliant. Like, because it's really hard. Sorry to just derail your thoughts there, Scott.
No.
But
it's totally true.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, it is. You can be anything. I'd love to see him as a horror film, as a sort of, because that's where they can separate him. That's where they can make him different. And one of the things is, I've been reading, like, over the last years, I've been reading a lot of, like, early, like, weird fiction. So sort of Arthur Machen, Lovecraft, sort of early Robert Bloch, all this other stuff. And there's all these tales in there that sort of, like, hint of sort of, like, hidden cults and, monsters and creatures that sort of exist. And that's and Ellis's run has a bit of that as well, and it's alluded to elsewhere.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I'd love to sort of really go into that idea of the protector of night travelers, and get into the weird, like, not just like proper horror, but like weird stuff, like, proper, like, cults and all that kind of stuff. And Bemis even had some of that with Ernst and his crew of I suppose cannibals. I think they were, weren't they really?
Oh yes, with the French, the Society of Sadists.
Yeah, and stuff like that. I think
yeah.
that's weird, and that's quite cool. I mean, again, it's a a double-edged sword. Like, the concept is really good. The handling of it wasn't spot on, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? What would you do? What are your thoughts on what we could do with him?
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea as well. I mean, again, I was just recently reading the Volume 1 Doug Mensch run. It was issues 29 and 30, and that involves a satanic cult as well. And they are trying to raise the beast of the apocalypse or something, which is actually what they're really doing is they're trying to capture Jack Russell, who's out and about running as a werewolf. So it's a pretty cool tale. I love this. Yeah, I dig what you're saying, Scott. I love this kind of groove that Moon Knight hits with just a little bit of dark, just what, the everyday Joe citizen would not be privy to, just these things that occur, while we all sleep at night. But I'd also like to see a supernatural take. I mean, we haven't had that for a while. I'm saying this right now, but like a million thoughts are running in my head because there's so many different things that you can actually do, right? So I'm already thinking of the Cosmic, the Other Void. I love that as well. But let's just say the supernatural. I love the connection that Moon Knight has with, right bare bones, right at the very beginning with Jack Russell and the werewolf. And I love the fact Moon Knight used to wear a lot of silver. He doesn't these days. It's now like either carbonadium or adamantium or, some other indestructible material. But yeah, I like that horror vibe. So have him fight, some creatures of the night. I think would be really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, having said that though, Scott, I mean, I could easily say I would love a noirish kind of Mr. Knight, seedy underbelly of the city, with him catching up with Detective Flint and going through, some cases that no one wants to take or something like that. Yeah, there's just so many possibilities for Moon Knight.
Yeah, those sort of dark cases, like you say, that nobody really wants to take on. I mean, I think that's a character that sort of, again, when you see pictures of Detective Flint, everyone's a bit like, oh, it's Commissioner Gordon, and you get those those comparisons, and it's so not,
No.
But I do like this idea.
Yeah, well, he's not a commissioner.
Yeah,
so.
for a start, yeah. But I like this idea of, like you say, that that Moon Knight sort of picks up the stuff that even like you say, he's. I always think of him closer to sort of the world of Doctor Strange than to the rest of the Marvel universe. And there was it Marvel Presents number 4 recently. They had the very short run. The very short, sort of story. I loved that. I thought it was fantastic, and there were things like the way that the art was used, sort of to depict one artist, but he still used this idea of the art changing slightly to depict dream versus reality. But then also, like, you didn't get to learn much about it, but there was a professor or someone, archaeologist, and he had like a red eye carved into his forehead, and there was like something was utilising that to get into our world to then go off and kill people, and it was clear that there was some sort of Egyptian connection there because it was calling on Mark and all this stuff. I thought, that's great. That's what I really like. This thing is influencing people and around it. It's doing this and that. Like, that felt like to me, it felt like a short story, like a weird short story. Like, I've just dropped Moon Knight in this weird short story, and he's going to go off and beat people up. I loved that, the feel of that. I thought it was great.
Oh, the tone of it was really good. We reviewed it on our show, and we thought the main thing that it suffered from was that it was just too short.
Yeah.
I mean, it had us, wanting more. And I think Benjamin Percy, who wrote it, he did a fantastic job in kind of he really paid respects, I think, to the character with it. I mean, he didn't. It's not like he referenced a lot of the past runs and stuff, but he actually, I think, he got the character and he got the tone. Especially with that kind of dark, slightly ambiguous. But then you have that fight scene as he goes up the stairs to that convalescence, was it? Home?
Yeah.
Shady Acres, yeah. And it was just really, really good. Yeah, the artist as well, Ferreira, he was really good. But it was just too damn short, I thought.
Yeah, it was a real teaser, wasn't it?
It was a very big tease. Yeah.
So let's go back.
But I mean,
let's before we sort of let's try and take a little trip back though. So let's look at his early stuff.
Sure.
So, I really like the Doug Moench run. If you start from sort of issue 1, I think a lot of that sort of first run is really solid. Like, you still get some bits and pieces in there because it's 38 issues, so it's not all going to be grade A. But pre that, what do you recommend for people?
Pre the Volume 1 run?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely check out if not just purely for the early Sienkiewicz art, the Hulk magazine, the run there, which that was a magazine that came out, and obviously it's all to do with the Hulk, but what they wanted to do was to couple that with a totally contrasting character, so they have some Moon Knight backstories, and you get a very nice diverse range there. One of the shining, I think, moments there for me is when Mark goes up against his brother, or the Hatchet Man, someone who apparently claimed that he was a brother. I think they retconned that. But Randall Spector with the Halloween mask and the pajama bottoms, really, really dark stuff. It'll give you a nice, I guess, overview of what Moon Knight has to deal with. And I think even one of the issues follows Moon Knight as he kind of patrols the midnight hours, of the night and the early morning. So it's a really nice, they're a really good series as well. Other than that, I mean, I'm just trying to not pick the obvious ones as well. I did enjoy the... there was actually a Marvel... it wasn't Marvel Spotlight, was it? I'm sorry, I haven't got the...
his first solo appearance was... But there's Marvel Preview 21.
That's the one, Marvel Preview 21.
Yeah.
That was a really nice story. The art is fantastic in that. I'd recommend definitely Marvel Preview 21 and the Hulk magazines. How about yourself?
No, I was going to say they're my go-to really, because I do like.
Oh, okay.
So his sort of that Marvel Spotlight, his first solo appearance following sort of Werewolf by Night, and then he appears in the Defenders, and he interacts with Spider-Man and the Thing and some others.
Yep. And
it's weird. I mean, even the last episode, I sort of say it's like his first appearance in that sort of Marvel Spotlight, the two issues with Conquer Lord, they're all right, and they sort of you get the gist of what they're trying to do with the character, but they feel so incredibly Silver Age.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
And that's part of the fun. It's just, because if you get a modern reader to read that now, the story is just absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
But you've got to have fun with those sorts of comics, though. And as you say, the Silver Agey kind of nod is pretty cool.
But I do think that sort of, because it's collect as well as a Countdown to Dark, and that collects all the Hulk magazines and that Marvel Preview story, and it's almost like sort of Munch and Sienkiewicz are given free reign. They're almost like, okay, you've got this many pages, we like the character, do something. And it is literally them just experimenting. Like, the thing, they're like, okay, what about this with the character? What about that with the character? Like, and I do feel like Munch is trying to make up for some of his previous appearances a little bit.
Right, yes.
Because he's got a bit, no, go on.
Yeah, I think definitely Munch is trying to. I think he's you can almost argue the fact that he's trying to figure out himself what he wants to do with Moon Knight. There are so many ideas that he's got. The thing with being bitten by a werewolf early on, then introducing Egyptian mythology. He really hadn't settled on anything for a long while. I think a lot of it's interesting because a lot of Munch's writing, you can see the development. Like he, towards the end, is very lyrical, very poetic, and I really love the way he writes. The earlier runs, especially like the ones in the Hulk magazine and that Marvel Preview 21, they are good in their own right. But what I find Munch tends to do is that he devises a plot, a rather straightforward plot, and he almost overpopulates it with characters, and so you get a lot of movement happening, a lot of things that are going on the side while the main thing goes. But if you really distill it, it's a very simple kind of plot. But he keeps it interesting, I guess, by introducing characters. And where he falls flat, I think, is when some of those characters aren't that interesting, you know what I mean, or they're quite forgettable. But for me, that's very typical early Munch. But at the same token, he's trying to find his way through, I guess, what he wants to do. And sorry as well, Scott, what I want to mention that you're saying earlier on about them having free reign. So Doug Moench has said as well, so around that time, those were direct to comic shop editions. So typically comics back in those days were on the newsstands and easily accessible. Those ones were apparently made more towards mature readers, and they were given more pages to do. So I think they were like 27 pages long and less ads, so even longer. So they had a lot more of a canvas to work with. They got to push the boundaries because they were allowed to aim it towards mature audiences, and they were allowed to do that because it was exclusive to shops, specialty shops.
Cool. I didn't realise that. That's so that explains sort of why they had that bit more free reign. I like the thing is about the character and him trying things, because I think with Munch as well, he doesn't want to give you the sort of the easy character, sort of. I mean, Mark Spector himself isn't an easy character.
No.
But the one that springs to mind the most is like Stained Glass Scarlet. When she's first introduced and she's killing off all these mobsters, and she's a little bit huntress, and you can think that. And then they talk about things like she says about the gangsters that took her son away, and you think, oh well, he must be killed, and then you find it's completely not that. Actually, he is still alive.
No,
it's the fact that they sort of corrupted him to a life of crime, and that she has this past of being a nun and wanting them to leave to be an actress and other stuff. It's like she's a fascinating character, and I'm not going to spoil the end of that issue, but the decision she then makes is incredible.
Oh yeah, she's one of the most, I guess, mysterious and as you say, fascinating characters in the Moon Knight canon, just because she seems to have this tenuous relationship with Moon Knight as well. Again, it's never really explained. It's almost as if they're, for want of a better term, they're kind of like kindred spirits or something. They seem to have some sort of connection. She pops up again in Mark Spector Moon Knight in the 90s, written by J.M. DeMatteis, and equally as ambiguous and mysterious as her in the Mensch run. So very, very interesting character. I read up on her once on Wiki. She does get a little bit more of a role outside of Moon Knight, but not much as well.
Oh, where else she appeared?
I can't remember what issues, but she led like a band of like what you say in Mark Spector Moon Knight, like hooded assassins, and she's just causing havoc. I'm not sure even if she died at the end of that, but she does pop up somewhere else. Yeah,
because there are those characters I'd love to see return to. I mean, we were going to let's get into our wild speculation in a minute about what the future holds again. But one of the things I find interesting, and it sort of struck me when I was writing the last episode, was it's become a stronger. It becomes a part of Mark's character. It sort of comes and goes. Is the fact that, like you say, his dad is a rabbi. So Mark Spector is he's Jewish. He is of Jewish descent. Yet he is the avatar of an Egyptian god, which really sort of has some sort of intrinsic sort of issues with it. Obviously, we obviously know about the Jews being led out of Egypt and all this other stuff. So in biblical history. So, but no one's ever dealt with that. Like, it's one of those things that I thought would be like a really easy thing. I was like, when it struck me when I was writing, I was like, no one's ever addressed this thing. Like, Mark's never turned around and been like, wait a minute, I'm a slave to an Egyptian god. And it's sort of
that's true.
Oh, that's a meaty topic that no one's ever sort of dared to get onto. You're right. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. It was just something that struck me.
No, I mean you've struck me as well with that. I mean, I've never really considered that as well, but you're absolutely spot on. I mean, that's really meaty. We know though that I think because of his relationship with his father, that he has. I think he has turned his back on his on Judaism. So I guess you could say then that him being accepting of Khonshu and stuff is kind of like the final nail in the coffin of him, turning back on his faith.
Yeah.
And apparently what I read or heard about in the Serpent War, which is coming up in December, which we mentioned features Conan, it also features a couple of other... Richard E. Howard, I think that's his name, the creator of Conan.
Yeah.
Solomon Kane and Dark Agnes. And Solomon Kane, I can't remember who the writer was. Let's call him Jim Zub, because there was an interview with him. And he said, I found it absolutely fascinating. You have, on one hand, you have Moon Knight, who has turned his back on his faith, and you have Solomon Kane, who is this Puritan, Christian, I think is a Christian character. So for them to play off each other was apparently just it was a field day for the writers.
Oh, I
So
can imagine,
yeah, it'll be
yeah.
very interesting to see.
Well,
Yeah,
Solomon
it'll be very
Kane.
interesting.
Solomon Kane's a fascinating character. I mean, the film. There was a film recent, not too recent, probably about 10, 12 years ago, but that I think was underrated. It's a very good film. But if you go back and read the stuff by Robert E. Howard, the idea is that he's a former adventurer and sort of pirate and a real sort of like scumbag that has turned his back on it for whatever reason and is now become this sort of like puritanical Christian sort of out there fighting evil, and that was his idea. Again, it was very much that sort of like the wandering strangers, much as Conan was. Like, he could wander in and out of adventures, and Solomon Kane's similar, but it's set in England. So Solomon Kane is set in sort of like England around the Somerset and the southern part of the country. But yeah, that's it. But he fights all these dark, like Solomon Kane fights some really dark things, and that's all about like I think one of the stories he literally fights sort of like zombies or skeletons and dark spirits.
Cool.
And that. So it's I mean it's the books are actually quite good. They're worth seeking out. So yeah, when they have that against like Moon Knight and Conan. I mean, even though I said that the interaction with Conan would be quite interesting. I don't know much about Dark Agnes,
exactly.
but yeah, no, I think
I don't know.
it's
He's got a very nice aesthetic as well, Solomon Kane. I love his name, and his aesthetic is pretty dark, and I think it's pretty cool. It's very old fashioned, but it looks pretty good. So yeah, be interested to see that. But no, that's a fascinating point that you raised there, Scott, with with Moon Knight and the Egyptians. No, for sure. So are we speculating about?
Let's get on to the TV show and stuff in the future. So what should we? Go on.
Sorry again, Scott. It's keep on buddying. But I just wanted to say that one of the great things about this announcement for the TV show, Scott, is that we will no doubt be getting down the track a comic book run. This is what excites me just as much of Moon Knight. Dare I say a few more collected trade paperbacks of something or a hardcover. How good would it be to get a collection of Mark Spector Moon Knight finally? I know you mentioned that in part one of your Moon Knight overview, but yeah, no, it's so I'm just excited about how Marvel will market Moon Knight in the lead up to the TV show. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I think more toys, more merchandise, definitely collections.
Yes,
some of that
more
stuff.
toys.
I mean, the Epic run, the Epic collections has literally just gone up to. It's funny, like I say, everything that's been collected has always been collected. So the Epic collections just got up to the end of the first volume.
Yes,
and very much sort of where the Essential Collection I think the Essential Collection's also collected Fist of Khonshu in that third volume. So yeah, then it's Mark Spector Moon Knight has never been collected, and I don't know why. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, a lot of people who are interested in Moon Knight haven't been able to actually plunge into the beauty and the ugliness of Mark Spector Moon Knight, and I feel sorry for them, and they definitely should. So we need a collection.
Well, it's not even on Comixology. It's not even on Comixology.
No, I know.
I think there's like 5 issues on there, and the issues are the ones that sort of link up with major crossovers. So you get like the Infinity, whatever, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that run. He's got some really high highs and some incredibly low lows, but
oh my gosh, you're talking about the in the part one about Seth Falcon and Spectacore. Oh, that towards the end with the Stephen Platt. His art as well. I understand a lot of people love it as well. It's an acquired taste, I reckon. But yeah, towards the end of that Mark Spector Moon Knight run, it gets a little weird.
It does. Yeah, I think. Tom Cavanagh or Tony Cavanagh who sort of wrote it. It's It's a little bit iffy. I mean, the thing with the art is like Stephen Platt's one of these artists that sort of he was a big 90s artist. Like, this is the thing, like and there's a category of like 90s artists, and it's some of the positions and sort of the postures he puts them in like are clearly like physically not possible, and they look awkward and uncomfortable, and the design is. I've got it in front of me. I've got issue. I must reach for it now. I've got issue 56 in front of me. And,
Is that the Infinity Crusade? Or
no, it's I've got it as a signed issue. I've got a Stephen Platt signed issue. Yeah, so, I picked it up.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Jeez.
And the art on the cover is really good. Like it's actually it's one of the weird ones where it's actually not too bad. But you get the sort of Marvel Comics cover image in the corner.
Yes.
The Moon Knight in the middle in that is, I don't know how you would get thighs or arms that thick, and how you would walk. It's crazy. Yeah, it's
too much steroids.
That's it,
Too much steroids.
That's it. It's ridiculous, and it does. I mean, there's all kinds of. As I said in the last episode, I think it gets up to about issue 30, and it's fine. It's pretty good. You get like Chuck Dixon's got some good adventure stuff in there. The art's pretty good.
Yeah,
and then it just goes to pot.
Well, I mean, I don't mind. Having said that as well, when you mentioned it, I don't mind Blood Brothers, which is the Punisher Randall Spector. That I think that's in the second half of the 60 issue run. I thought that was okay. I mean, it was very kind of 90s kind of written, but there were some pretty cool action scenes, and Punisher's always fun. It's always fun to see them both kind of be at loggerheads. But a collection of Mark Spector Moon Knight. Anyone listening who's interested. Talking about recommendations, you've got to hunt this down somehow. Yeah. And just for the mere novelty to read this 90s run. It's the longest run of Moon
60
Knight.
issues.
So far.
Yeah.
So it had something was going right.
Yeah. I mean, the one there's an issue, and I can't remember for the life of me which one it is. Because again, I've got a complete run of it, so one day I'm going to go back and I might read it if it's not collected soon. Put myself through it.
Yeah.
But there's an issue where he goes through like different alternate universe versions of Moon Knight.
Yes.
And you get like a version that's a take of like 1966 Batman, and you get like a Dark Knight version, and you get some other. It's really like weird, but quite good.
So weird.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah. That was during the Infinity War crossover. So
that's it.
I think. Yeah, they go through the multiverses because what's his name? Not Shadow Knight. Moonshade, which is the doppelganger of Moon Knight. And for those who know Infinity War, every hero got their evil doppelganger. So Moon Knight got Moonshade. Anyway, to chase him, they traverse the multiverse, and you get some really Dino Moon Knight or something. There was a dinosaur that was a Moon Knight avatar. It was really funny.
Yeah,
really funny.
I mean, there's some interesting concepts in there, and it's again, Bemis did something sort of similar and just as much fun. I think in the late part of his run, and you got like Frog Knight and some other bits and pieces that were quite good. So
yes, that's right. You got Liefeld Moon Knight, which was or Stephen Platt Moon Knight, one or the other. Yeah.
So so there's been some good bits, and I can't wait for it all to be collected. We'll get in colour and all that kind of stuff. So
brilliant.
But it's going to lead up to the TV show. But what are your thoughts on what they can do with a TV show? Like where could and this is just remember this is Disney Plus, so
I know, yeah. I don't know. The possibility is endless. The first thing you can go to is because I believe it's going to be a 6 to 8 episode season. That's what I've heard. So a bit more produced, a higher production for each of the episodes, which is good. So we'll get some really good quality in that run. Okay. You can either get the origin. They'll go through the origin of Moon Knight. For maybe half, if not the whole thing, and at the end you get him, a la Daredevil in Netflix. You get him fully costumed at the end, or with the 6 to 8 episodes, they might even take a leaf out of the Warren Ellis book, and you could have one shots each episode. Maybe forego. It's going to be hard because they're going to have to introduce him somehow. So whether he gets a mention somewhere else, as a backdoor introduction, but they're going to have to invest in at least a couple of episodes to introduce him. But what I'd speculate about is that there'll be one-off episodes each with him, chasing down a sniper or going looking at some funky fungus, dreamlike qualities. I think that possibly. I don't know. How about yourself? What do you
I don't
think?
know. It's a tough one because, like I say, there's so many variances to pull from. But the opportunity to do something different. I mean, yes, we've had Daredevil, and I always remember watching that season 1. Well, each season had it, but season 1, that corridor scene where he goes through and just sort of like decks all those guys, and it's sort of done in to look like one take is amazing. And you do sort of look at that issue 5 of the or 4 or 5 of the Ellis run. You think, that's what I want to see. I'm not sure you're going to get that level of violence, but like you say, I don't want him to be. I don't think Kevin Feige and that they're all clever enough now. They're not. I don't think we're going to get a standard superhero fare. They're going to give it a twist, but is it going to be the first super? Well, we've had Doctor Strange, but the first is he going to be like a supernatural superhero? Are they going to go down that route, or are they going to go more noir and do that sort of thing? There's so many things they could do, but the thing is again, like, if they are introducing Khonshu as an actual god in the comics, it makes me wonder if they're setting that up because that's going to be the foundation for the TV show. Like because I don't think Disney Plus will have the guts to go with the level of ambiguity that we've had in the past.
I really hope they do, because as we've mentioned earlier before, what I find absolutely more interesting is this ambiguity. Is Khonshu real, or is Mark just mad? And unfortunately, I would tend to agree with you. If Marvel is making this statement by having Khonshu, no secrets, be an established god, then maybe that's how they're going to do it, because it's one follows the other these days, don't they? The comics and the TV shows, and vice versa. So I hope not, but. Potentially, we'll have to see. I'll be interested to see how Khonshu was established in Serpent War.
Yes,
and if we see anything more there, then maybe we'll get a bit more insight.
I mean, the thing is, again, they could look at other, what has been successful on TV, and again, like Disney doesn't have to worry about so much because it's already got your money, and you've already made a stake in the ground. But if you look at the most successful sort of superhero TV shows, like yes, you could go down that sort of like the Arrowverse kind of, which is very much sort of like it's fun and it's brightly coloured and it's camp, but it is actually it's not always my favourite way, but it's not. I don't think it's targeted at me, to be fair. But it's got a place. You know what I mean? I have to admit, I hold my hand up. I'm really looking forward to their Crisis on Infinite Earths. The recent picture of Brandon Routh as a slightly aged Superman looks amazing. So you could go down that.
And Tom Welling.
Yeah, they've got Tom Welling coming back as Superman as well. Like
Tom Welling coming back.
They're going all out. It sounds like it could be amazing. Yeah. But then they could look at from a Marvel perspective, like Legion has done. Is amazing. You have Doom Patrol, which is really weird, and maybe take a leaf out of that book and go, do you know what, actually we could lean into that a bit more and go weird and a bit more bit darker.
I tend to think the latter with that, Scott. I think that the likes of Legion and Doom Patrol have paved the way for that kind of TV show, and Moon Knight falls in that wheelhouse so well. So I don't see them deviating from that. The challenge would be to make it kind of distinct and different from the others, because Legion has done that so well for me, like that depiction of mental illness and just the way it's visually and stunningly done. It's going to be a risk of Moon Knight coming off as like, oh, this is just a Legion a rip-off of the Legion.
This is the problem, I think, because when you look at some of the stuff that's been done before, like you say with the Netflix series. I mean, let's just take the two primary ones that are closest to Moon Knight in Daredevil and Punisher. Both Punisher series really is about him paying for the crimes, the crimes of his military career. Spoilers, but that you find out that his family are killed because of links to his time, as a soldier abroad, and then so are all the enemies. okay, well, you could do that because Mark Spector was a mercenary, and you get Bushman, and I'm pretty sure that if they do it without Bushman, I'd be pretty amazed.
Oh, you need
Yeah,
to.
and so you've got that element of like, okay, but is that too close to the Netflix Punisher? Okay, well in that case, let's go the other way, and we'll have him taking on low level crime or whatever, and you go, okay, well that's too close to the Netflix Daredevil. So
Yeah,
I think
true.
if you,
True.
I mean, the good writers can do it, and it can still be amazing. But I don't know. I just think the opportunity is there to do something. You could pull a thread that goes through all of them. Go back to the Munch run. I mean, go back to those early issues, and pull some of that weirdness out of those as well.
Yeah, I was about to ask, which runs do you think will the writers and the showrunner kind of have in their green room or whatever, just kind of leafing through as they write. But I think it's going to probably be a bit of everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
let's be clear. Disney is a machine. It does things, and anything they do has got several primary purposes. Yes, we're making a TV show that we want everyone to watch because we want people to continue to watch the stuff we make. So that's one thing. So I'm sure it'll be good, and they're not skimping on this stuff now. They're really putting effort into it. And Kevin Feige is going to be involved with all the TV. So there's also that potential, don't forget, that if it works on the TV show, to see him appear on the big silver screen at some point as well. So, if they're able to take Falcon and Winter Soldier from screen to TV, then there's nothing to stop them crossing over. But for me, I think they're also going to be looking at where's the merchandise, what sells best, who are the favourite characters. Do not kid yourself that at some point, and I'm not saying it happens, but in the next year or so, don't be surprised if you find that some people are searching the internet looking for inspiration of what do Moon Knight fans really want, and they come across, the Facebook page and stuff like that. Like it's happened in the past, and Mr. Knight is a standout character. That's as a modern iteration. That thing, Declan Shelby nailed that. Geordie Belair and Declan Shelby. That first appearance of Mr. Knight, where he's walking down that alleyway, and the decision just to make him just page white. Sort of just so stark.
Yes.
Brilliant decision like that. I pulled the trigger and bought a Funko Pop recently. I got the Mr. Knight one because it's awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
So,
can you imagine? Sorry, Scott. Can you imagine that? Like shortly, not in the not too distant future, we may potentially have a Marvel Legends Hasbro figure of Bushman. Of Morpheus. This is crazy, but it's what every Moon Knight fan dreams of.
The day I can buy a Morpheus figure is the day that I know Moon Knight has made it. That's The other thing is, that, like you say, is all the merchandise. Like I see people that have made their own T-shirts and all that kind of stuff, but I want to be able to buy like proper Moon Knight merch. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely.
Wear my looniness with pride.
Yeah, exactly. You see Kevin Feige wearing a Moon Knight baseball cap.
That
would be really
cap
cool.
with a crescent moon on it and just the Moon Knight logo. Oh yeah, it's gonna happen.
Just a little bit of speculation as well, Scott. I thought I might drop it here as well. You're talking about how Moon Knight can jump potentially between movies and TV shows. Now, there was a bit of news that I dropped on our show. So it was been revealed that Black Widow, the movie next year, I think coming out around middle of the year, some of the scenes were shot in Morocco, i.e. North Africa. Now, there's speculation whether there might be a nod. Well, number one, apparently Shang-Chi, the movie, some of it is set in Morocco, so there might be a link there between Black Widow and the Shang-Chi movie. But people are also wondering now, look, it's in North Africa, Moon Knight's origins do start there as well. It's a bit of a tenuous link, but
it's
potential.
Yeah, this is the thing, and don't think this Moon Knight. Sorry, the Black Widow. Sorry, the Black Widow film is a real anomaly in the Marvel MCU canon to date. I mean, granted, it's taken it's the first film to take place after, really, to be done after phase the last phase. Like you had Endgame and you got Far From Home, which sort of sealed it all down. Black Widow is going to be that first entry point to that next phase, and you're telling me they're going to look backwards. that's
Yeah, that is
That-
very weird,
that
isn't it?
does not
Yeah.
sound like the Marvel that we have come to know. And I get that they're
No.
trying to give Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow her due, and rightfully so. I'm really looking forward to the film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it feels odd that So the question, someone raised this to me actually, was like, well, what's the point of doing this? Is it just to give that character its due because they killed her off? And I was like, well, I don't know. But then someone suggested, well, or could it then be the other way round? Has there been something else going on behind the scenes
Yes.
since in this film sort of instigates that, and we get some sort of since between just before Civil War, we actually get something there. We find something, I don't know, the Secret Empire or I don't know, something else, and so you are going to be introduced.
The committee.
Yeah, it could be something like, couldn't it? And so you are going to get a bunch of new characters introduced in Black Widow that we just haven't seen yet. Not in costume, but you might get, like I say, mercenary Mark Spector or a young Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I mean, it's done similar to... It's a very, very good point, Scott, as well. I hadn't considered it, but it makes total sense. And it reminds me of what they did with Captain Marvel and having it set in the 90s. Now, to show her kind of go back a bit, and show her origins through there, by the time she reaches, the present, she's kind of well established. So you can do that with the other characters. Like, say, for instance, in the Black Widow movie, it's set in Civil War, something starts to happen in Egypt with a guy named Mark or whatever. By the time the TV show comes out, you don't have to go through all that. I mean, you will have to recap it in a sense, but it's more believable that, he's actually spent between that time in Civil War up until the present becoming this Moon Knight figure. And so, yeah, I think that must be the other reason why Marvel are doing that, to make sure that there are concurrent characters that we haven't seen yet slowly be established. And by the time they reach the present, then,
they're ready to go.
Happy days.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I'm not saying we're going to
that's
get
a
like an
great point.
on-screen appearance of Mark Spector, because let's say he's not
No.
been cast. But like you say, there could be something in a tomb or an Egyptian or a North African Moroccan, a North African archaeological dig, and you're going to see a statue of Khonshu or something. Like there will be something. Yeah, I mean, we could be miles off base.
We could be miles away, but I'm just already fantasizing, Scott. Can you imagine seeing the statue of Khonshu in Black Widow? I would just lose my chisel.
God, yeah, that yeah.
If there's a glimpse of it, the statue with
with the staff and the crescent moon staff and that. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I just can't believe that they're not setting these things in motion already, because it's one of those things that if you go back, if you do go back to the sort of the early phases, like it was all mapped out, maybe not in great detail, but the stuff you see, it's all obvious. It was there.
Let's just why not just look at Shang-Chi with the 10 rings?
Yeah.
That started all the way back in 2008, and Kevin Feige showed that it's been there from the start. You just haven't really paid much notice. So I love that.
So that's it. So are we going to? Is you don't know? The Mandarin now could be the major villain for the next phase. It could be, all kinds of things.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about Black Widow that it's not just going to be a sort of a send off for a character. There's going to be more to it. There's got to be.
Yeah. I think it's got a bit of a dark horse.
There's something.
Surprise
there's something
us.
in there that's not been revealed yet, and it's got Taskmaster as well, who's a great character. So.
Oh yes, how cool is that? It's crazy, and the Red Guardian.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
Red Guardian. So it's really digging into sort of Marvel sort of
It's crazy.
back catalogue.
Yeah.
Okay, so final question then. Let's just do some final question before we sort of round this out.
Sure.
Is actually there'll be two. There's gonna be two. So this is the second one. Let's keep it the TV show. Who is going to play? Who would you like to see play Mark Spector?
Oh, that is so tough. Look, I've been, recommended and been talking about all these different people being Mark Spector, ranging from the guy who played Dexter in Dexter to Michael C. Hall to Ross Marquand from Walking Dead. I would actually, Scott, like to see a relatively unknown person. I'd like to see this to maybe be their breakthrough, similar to how Charlie Cox was so successful with Daredevil. I'd like to see someone, not totally well known.
No, I think you're right, because there's been so many, people go straight to those known characters. I'd love to see them say, sort of someone unknown that you can sort of you're not sure what they're going to pull from. I mean, they keep talking about, Shia LaBeouf keeps getting mentioned.
Yeah.
And,
look, if you asked me ages ago, what's his name? I think it's he played Oberon in Game of Thrones, Pedro Pascal.
Oh, Pedro Pascal,
yeah. He's in The Mandalorian now. I thought he would have been great, actually, myself. But yeah, I mean, that was early days. Yeah. How about yourselves? Did you anyone in particular as well?
No, I've gone round this a few times, and there are certain people I keep sort of coming back around to. To be fair, I've almost warmed to the idea of Shia LaBeouf, because I think, and forgetting his Transformers years, like you see him do things. It's a bit like Robert Pattinson. Like everyone goes straight to the Twilight stuff, and you think, he's done some really good stuff since. So I think, but if it was him, I would be interested to see what he brings. I think he would bring something interesting. But to me, I was thinking, there's all kinds of people. I even went to Adrian Brody at one point. I was like, Adrian Brody would be really interesting. Sort of
be very good. Yeah.
Really good actor, could really bring that sort of intensity and that different sort of thing. But I think an unknown, a younger, because he can't be too young, because you've sort of got to have it that he's gone through some stuff already. So I don't know. Yeah,
I'd like him in his 30s. So a bit more established. I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard one. But let's just go someone, because you're gonna have to have someone that can pull off looking like a killer merc, being a dapper Stephen Grant, and also not looking hammy and being a Jake Lockley. And that's pretty hard to pull off. So
I think that's the thing. I mean, it's funny. The conversations I've had about this. Someone keeps bringing up like Christopher Reeve when he played Superman, and that thing of like how he played. His Clark Kent was sort of like perfect posture. Sorry, his Superman was perfect posture, nice wide stance. It was all about the heroic stances and that. And then when he played Clark Kent, it was he was hunched over. It was sort of like fumbling and that sort of thing. And like you sort of bought that. Okay, it's clearly the same guy, but you could understand why you wouldn't sort of think that. And you need someone who's going to have that sort of be able to bring that physicality, so you can go. That cabbie looked an awful lot like that rich bloke who I keep seeing in the press. So they've got to be able to do something just to sort of to try and they've got to be able to bring that difference of physicality. If they bring the different personalities to the TV show, again, it may be something that they're not brave enough to do straight away. That I don't know, but I can't see that they could do a Moon Knight show without them. It would be weird.
No, for sure, absolutely. And I think that would be one of the great pulling cards of actually watching Moon Knight. It's gonna the acting chops will have to be really spot on. I can't remember the show that I watched before, but it had an unknown actor who played someone with DID, and him going between his alters, I think they called it, and it was frightening. And I want that same kind of goosebump feeling when you see Mark Spector flip from Mark Spector to Stephen Grant to there was an issue in the Houston run. Tommy Coker wrote it. It was issue 14, I think, of the Houston run, and it's Mark being assessed by the psychiatrist, and you see him flip, and he goes from this confident kind of Stephen Grant to this a little dour kind of Jake Lockley, and the art even conveyed how scary it was to see someone just change like that, and that's what I want to see in the TV show. So I hope Disney do that, and I hope they don't ignore it.
No, because I think you're right there. The potential for that is amazing. I mean, you've then got the idea of you know, I like the idea of like, say, maybe the primary ones actually are Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley, you know, for him sort of like working in high society, and then they, you know, there's Moon Knight, and then Mark Spector's almost like trapped away in the background, like, you know, again that redemptive thing of like, no, you know, I'm keeping that in the back, and then when he just flips into when he finally flips into Mark Spector, that's when the shit hits the fan. You know, that's the real. Like, no, we've been keeping this locked up. I've been holding back, and now I'm not. And it was like the Mark Spector personality that broke and actually like cut the face off Bushman, or really did that kind of thing. I like that idea of. Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
That'd be really something.
A friend of mine, actually, he's been featured on this show, Dave, who we spoke about Predator. You reminded me as well, he actually put up a fan cast I think would be brilliant. He's a little older now, but Viggo Mortensen. I don't know if
he's got intensity. Yeah,
he's got intensity, and if you've watched History of Violence, have you seen that? Where and he's apparently this killer, but he's this very meek, kind of very innocent guy for most of the movie, and then he flips, and he shows his real colours. That sort of stuff, that sort of intensity, I think would be really great for Moon Knight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's so much to do. There's so much potential.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Last bit of speculation. So, Jason Aaron has obviously alluded to the fact that he has got a Moon Knight story to tell, and it's going to appear in Avengers. The Avengers book, and that his book's going all over the place. Like it's reintroduced Blade. It's got some other stuff going on. It's been crazy. What are your thoughts on Jason Aaron writing a Moon Knight story?
Oh, number one, sign me up straight away. Really do love Jason Aaron's work. You know, even his average stuff is quite solid, but for the most part, he knows how to write a hell of a good comic book, so definitely get him on there. I mean he's run with Ghost Rider as well, with Wolverine. He's done all the big ones with Thor, obviously. He's just very talented writer. So in a heartbeat, I'd go grab his stuff. And as for what it would be, he's alluded a lot to, like, it looked like mummies and zombies and stuff. So very Egyptian kind of angled. Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know what it is, because I've been following the Avengers run, and it's really good. And I loved his work on Thor and I say Wolverine and stuff is incredible. But yeah, that sort of thing, when you get that sort of flash forward or the glimpses of the things in the future, and it's like Moon Knight leading an army of mummies, or maybe even being chased by them. Don't know. No, it's going to be good.
It's hard to tell. He comes up with some really good ideas, but he can also maybe work off the ideas of others as well. So he might take further Lemire's ideas, because we did see New Egypt. It was an iteration of New York in Lemire's run. So there is a very much an Egyptian quality there, and Anubis. On the raft in the cosmos, so all that sort of stuff Jason Aaron can probably tap into.
Yeah, it'd be great. I'm really looking forward to it. I think between us, we agree that there's actually quite a bright future for Moon Knight. Coming up. Oh yeah, so, this is just the start. We're on the beginning of the roller coaster ride here, Scott, and we've got the bar down. We're kind of slowly ascending up that big the big hill, and I just can't wait for us to just go down. And TV show, comic books, action figures, Funko Pops, bring it on. That's it. Merchant, amazing. But, yeah. The wallet's going to take a hit, I'm sure it is. But, it's all going to be worth it. Okay. Well, Ray, we've had a great conversation, and thank you so much for coming on 20th Century Geek to talk about Moon Knight. Oh, no, Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love speaking with you as well. I mean, whether it be Predator or Moon Knight, hey, why not have Moon Knight versus Predator? There's got to be a comic there somewhere. But, no, it's always a pleasure. And it's always a pleasure talking to someone that is so passionate about Moon Knight as well. So, no, it's been a blast. Excellent, thank you. And where can people find you? Where can people find Into the Night? Yeah, so definitely just check us up on Twitter at ITK Moon Knight is our handle. And the best thing, we're on Facebook. We've got a page and a group, but
just go for the group. The group's a lot of fun. We've just hit over 1,200, so facebook.com/groups/ITK Moon Knight, and yeah, we respond quite frequently, and it's fun to just chat with all the loonies.
It is. I can attest that I'm part of the group, and there's a great bunch of people on there.
Yeah.
Some great ideas, some great theories, and more people joining every day. So go and have a look at it. Go check it out.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ray.
No worries.
Really appreciate your time, and we'll catch up again soon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Another great 20th Century Geek episode. Thank you for listening. If you would like to get in contact to suggest topics for future shows, or just chat about everything nerdy, you can email me at 20thcenturygeek@gmail.com. That's 20thcenturygeek@gmail.com. Or find me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Just search for 20th Century Geek. If you would like to support the show, please go on your podcast catcher and leave a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate it. It raises the show in the ranks and lets more people know about the podcast. If you want to show more support for the podcast, we do have an Amazon wish list. Just go on Amazon and search for 20th Century Geek, and you will find a list of books that will help with research for future podcasts. And don't forget, we love second-hand books in 20th Century Towers. Once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.